JK, put your hands up if you have read any of Harry Potter books or had them read to you. Put your hands up if you have seen any Harry Potter films. Put your hands up if you have a Harry Potter t-shirt. Put your hands up if you've at least heard of Harry Potter. Well, this is the author. We're going to tell her story today. And you remember, as part of this Guess Who series, you hear the story and you might hear about all their talents and their abilities, but you're looking for evidence of their character strengths. And there's nothing special about character strengths. We all have them. And it's really interesting with JK, actually, because the story, as it unfolds, she didn't have certain character strengths in her youth that she really had to call on. It's a bit of a hint later in life. So keep a lookout. And remember, there may be words here that don't actually exist on the balloon, okay? So we only could have so many words on the balloon. You might come up with some other ways to describe the wonderful JK. So picture JK, she's a little kid. Jo is what she was actually called. And we'll get to why she was renowned as what got known as JK later. So Jo, she's a little girl and she has a sister and she already has a wonderful reputation for telling stories, for putting on plays, telling stories, and particularly stories about fantasy. So her imagination was very evident from an incredibly young age. Now, she loved books, she loved reading books, and very sadly, actually, her mother was really quite ill. And her mother got something called MS. And with MS, what this meant is her mother couldn't do simple tasks like cooking or even getting in and out of a bath was tricky. So JK would get into bed, Jo, I should call her, Jo would get into bed and read her mother stories, which is pretty delightful. Now, for her, her actual school days weren't incredibly happy. And with her mother being more and more sick, she had to spend more time with her dad. She wasn't a great fan of her dad, so it was a tense period of her life. And her teachers could see that she had incredible potential, but that she wasn't trying very hard at all. She never really stuck with things. She struggled a bit to be motivated at school, and I think she had a lot of the weight of the world on her shoulders. But in her final year of school, she suddenly decided, I want to go to an incredible university called Cambridge. That's where I want to be. It's the most, prestigious university in the world, some would argue. Seriously beautiful. And so at the last minute, she thought, yep, I'm going to focus. I'm going to work really hard. And she applied to get into Cambridge. She waited for the letter to arrive from the university to see if she'd be accepted or not. She opened it thinking, this is my future. She read the first lines and it said, we regret to inform you that you have not received a place with us. She was devastated, but she did get into another university and she loved it. She absolutely loved it. Now, she left university and she wanted to be a writer more than anything, but she kept sort of hitting walls of writing takes a lot of time and effort. You don't get any money when you write. I'll just get a job somewhere else. So she got a job for a great organisation, a great charity actually, called Amnesty International, and it required her to spend a lot of time on the train for her commute. Now, something incredible happened on the train. She got this idea of a boy called Harry, who's a wizard, who has all these adventures, and she couldn't shake the idea, and she was desperate to get off the train at the end of each day and to get on the train at the beginning of the day just so she could write, because she kept thinking about this boy that lives in a cupboard under the stairs who has no idea that he's a wizard and amazing things happen. And it followed her around wherever she went. Now, she left university and she was in London. It was a bit miserable. And she thought, why don't I go to sunny Portugal? And so off she went. And things really started to pick up for JK there because she got a job teaching English at night, which meant that during the day she could write. And she wrote and she wrote and she wrote pages upon pages about Harry Potter and the stories that unfolded for this character. And some incredible things happened while she was in Portugal. She met someone, she married, and they had a baby. Things were looking good. But a few months later, the marriage didn't work out, and she had a little newborn baby, and JK realised that she wasn't happy and that it wasn't going to work. And so she took the big, courageous step and decided to leave and she went to Scotland where her sister was, and she only had a suitcase with a story in it and not many clothes and absolutely no money. So much so that she had to apply for government benefits. And she says here, I was as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. So she did have a home, but she had no money whatsoever. But she did remember one day, in a state of sadness, that she still had the story and it was in the suitcase. And she went through it, and there was Harry Potter and Hagrid and Hermione and all those wonderful characters on the pages of a book. And she thought, I have to keep writing. I have to do it for my daughter as well. It's my passion. I must do this. And she discovered something, because she had a very little baby, but she discovered if she went for long walks, her daughter would completely conk out and fall fast asleep. So then she would take herself off to a cafe and she would write, and she wrote and she wrote and she wrote. And finally, she finished the book. And it was incredibly exciting because she had no money, but she had this passion that she wanted to follow. She sent it off to a publisher of people that take your book and print it. They said, no, thank you. She sent it off to another one. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Times 12. 12 rejection from people who just went, nope, it's not good enough. You imagine she's got no money, little baby, be very tempting to give up. Finally, the manuscript of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone landed in a publisher that went, okay, but it has to pass the test of my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, who happens to be called Alice. I love this bit of the story because my mum works in a bookshop and she would often give me manuscripts and ask me what I thought about it. So you imagine JK's life depends on a 10-year-old. Her well-being depends on a 10-year-old, her living, everything. And the 10-year-old Alice, great name, she loves it. And so her dad says, okay, we'll publish it. But listen, don't expect to make any money from this. We'll give you around £2,000, which may seem like a lot, but it's not if you want to survive. We'll give you around that and, really keep doing what you do aside from writing, because you'll need that. There's no money in children's books. Well, we know what happened next, don't we? We know that JK went on to become a hugely successful author, so much so that she sold over and has sold over 500 million copies of her books. They've been made into movies. There's even a theme park. It's a huge success story. And there's this thing called the Forbes Rich List, which, whatever. But there is this thing where they point out billionaires, right? And it's the top 100 people, I think, that are the new billionaires every year. And this is the cool thing about JK, who was told that, you know what, you really shouldn't give up your job. She makes it onto the list, but then by the end of the year, she's off the list because she's also what's called a philanthropist, meaning she gives away her money. She gives away loads of it. She says here, Harry Potter author is one of the first billionaires to fall off the Forbes billionaire list because of charitable giving. How cool is that? She says, you have a moral responsibility when you've been given far more than you need to do wise things with it and give intelligently. Now, I skipped a bit of the story. Why JK? It's because when she first published her book, they said, look, we really want to attract all the boys out there who might be into wizards, and we're going to call you JK, not Joe. It's very interesting. That has happened in history throughout time, where women have disguised themselves as male authors. We don't need to do that anymore. Just saying. So, JK, philanthropist, didn't give up. What are we thinking? This is the pausing time where you get to pick the character strengths of JK Rowling. Okay, what did you pick? Remember, you can email me. You can tell your teacher. What did you pick? So, from my point of view, JK Rowling didn't have a lot of one of the character strengths that she ended up using and growing. So remember, this poster says, know and grow a strength today. I think one of her key character strengths is perseverance. I think another one is generosity. And I think another one that she has, I wish I could say 4. No, I'm going to have to go with it. I think she's got gratitude. I think she's got gratitude because she's seen where she's come from. And instead of just holding on to all her money, she has a deep appreciation for the fact that not everyone is as lucky, and she gives. So I think it overlaps between generosity and gratitude. I think you could also say creativity, just saying. Anyway, that's Guess Who number 8. Hope you enjoyed it, guys.